Hi everyone, welcome to the first part of your lecture. We are talking about theories of cognitive development. And if we think about all of the theories we've learned about Bronfenbrenner and the ecological systems model, we've learned about Erickson and how he feels like he goes through stages and you're always kind of in this dynamic of two things kind of conflicting each other, one winning out over the other. We think about Bandura and his social cognitive theory, but there's two really theories that we have continually revisited as we've thought about cognition, and those are Piaget and information processing. And today's lecture is going to be the same thing. We're going to look at Piaget, and we're going to look at information processing and see how both of those theories apply and explain cognitive development. With that, let's jump on in and talk about Piaget. Take a minute and think about where you start with Piaget and his mindset. You start in that sensory motor time period. That area where we're really just exploring things. That's what we're seeing in this picture too. He's exploring with his mouth. He's using his senses to understand his world. He's really kind of engaging in that cause and effect and understanding of how things react and how things can happen. From there, they move into the pre-operational stage. Remember with Piaget, he really describes this stage as being pretty limiting and kind of at a deficit model. The idea that there's a lot of things children cannot do yet. He takes a look at all those conservation experiments and he says, a lot of things are impacting them, their inability to think about how things start, the inability to think about how things have transformed, the inability to think about more than one aspect of an item, right? That idea of having centration, only focusing on one item. But he did also mention this time period that children really focus on a lot of symbolic play and understanding how to play together, right? He understood the importance of play. From pre-operational stage, he understood that children grew and got a lot of different skills. We talked about this in mid-adolescence, the concrete operational stage, the idea that children really understood conservation at this point in time because they got reversibility. They understood to focus on decentration, more than one item at a time. Now we're moving out of concrete operational stage into the last stage, which is the formal operational stage. At this point in time, he really believes that children are able to focus on more than one element, but they're also able to use a lot of deductive reasoning and understanding of how to make a hypothesis and how to test those hypotheses. And they're not limited by the knowledge that they already have. They use that as the foundation, but then if they need to acquire more information, they'll do the testing in order to do so. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So the concrete to formal operational stage. In the concrete operational stage, you start with the problem. Okay, which one weighs the most? What makes things go the fastest? It could be anything. From there you go, okay, I have all this previous knowledge about what makes things go fast. I know that gas makes things go fast. I know that if I push something, it makes things go fast. And you use all of that previous knowledge that you have to come up with a solution. And if that solution doesn't work, you're unable to generate additional ideas or alternatives. You're kind of stuck with that mindset. This is what I've always known to be true, and I don't know how to experiment or hypothesize or try new ideas. But what happens in the formal operational stage is all of those things do come. You have a problem. And then you kind of have an hypothesis, and maybe your hypothesis comes from what you already know. So I'm hypothesizing that maybe this is the element that's important that's going to make this item go faster. But you're not limited by that knowledge. Instead, what you do with that hypothesis that you've used, that you've generated based on your previous information, is you start taking different variables and you're deducing which one is not accurate. So taking out what is not right, what does not fit. And you're testing all of the different scenarios. And then from there, you come up with an answer. So while you form your hypothesis with what you know, it doesn't limit your ability to come up with other alternatives when it doesn't work. It actually kind of assists you in figuring out what does work. Okay? Moving forward from operational stage, they also have part of this is the propositional thought, and it's the ability to apply and evaluate propositions without needing real world examples or circumstances. You don't need to see it. You can think verbally and mentally about what is being said to you and whether it might be true or false. So the example here is that suppose I was holding an M&M in my hand and you could not see it. And I said to you, either the M&M in my hand is blue or it is not blue. And you would say, okay, yeah, I could see that, because you don't need to see it because you might be in the formal operational stage. And then I could say the candy in my hand is blue and it is not blue. And to you, you might go, well, that doesn't make any sense, because you can understand verbally what I'm saying without having to see it. Concrete operational is a little bit different. So because I'm hiding it, if you were in the concrete operational stage, you would need to see it to understand the verbs, to understand the wording of it. So for both questions, you would say, I don't know. But in the formal operation stage, you don't need to see it to understand that the first statement is true and the second statement is false. All right, there's going to be a couple more examples about this, but I wanted to show you a video of a child doing it, so I'm just going to take a brief break from talking to you and let you listen.
It says, if you hit a glass with a hammer, the glass will break.
I knew that.
And then this one says, Dawn hit a glass with a hammer.
I knew that too.
So what happened to the glass?
It broke.
It broke. Why did it break?
Because the hammer's hard.
If you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break.
No, it won't.
And this is the second rule. Dawn hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
Nothing.
Nothing happened? Why didn't anything happen?
Because the feather was soft.
Okay, so what you see here before I show you the next one where the child is actually in the formal operational stage, this child is in the concrete operational stage. So what's happening is he's using all that information he already has. He knows that a hammer is hard, he knows that a feather is soft, and he's applying it to the situations or the scenarios. He can't use the alternatives and he can't apply the rule that's been given to him. And even when he goes to explain it, he gives a very concrete example. He's not going back to the rule to explain it. All right, compare that to the child in the next short clip that is in the formal operational stage.
First one says, if you hit a glass with a feather, the glass will break.
Okay.
And the second one, Dawn hit a glass with a feather. What happened to the glass?
It broke.
And why did it break?
Because the rule says if you hit a glass with a feather, it'll break. So if you hit a glass with a feather, it broke.
So she was able to take the rule that was given to her. She didn't need to see it. She was able to take the rule, and she kind of smiles because she understands the previous knowledge of a feather being light and being soft and not normally something that would break something, right? She has that previous knowledge, but even with that previous knowledge, she's able to take the rule and apply it. And that's because she's in the formal operational stage. All right, moving forward, I want you to know some facts about formal operational stage. The reality is that not everybody makes it to the formal operational stage, and we have varying degrees of being in the formal operational stage and whether or not we're able to apply these rules and propositional facts or propositional rules. The other thing that's important to know is that culture influences whether or not we're in the formal operational stage, whether or not we actually use this type of language and how we're able to explain it. All of those pieces relate back to culture. Also, the last piece is that the reasoning, once you get more into formal operational stage, moves from concrete examples to the logic of the rule. So if she said to her, the feather breaks things, what's going to happen to the glass? She said the glass is going to break. She wouldn't say, well, why does the glass break? She wouldn't say, because the glass is going to break. That would be a concrete example. She would go back to the rule, because the feather breaks things. So it goes from the actual concrete example back to what the rule was once you get more into the formal operational stage. I want to give you some more examples. So here's the major premise. If Heidi eats a pizza, then she will not be hungry. The second premise is, suppose Heidi does not eat a pizza. The question would be, is Heidi hungry? So if you were in the concrete operational stage, you're only thinking about, I am only full if I've eaten a pizza. So you would say, yes, Heidi's still going to be hungry. But if you're in the formal operational stage, you can understand the logic of that rule and say, I don't really know if she's going to be hungry or not, because I understand that Heidi could have eaten a cupcake, Heidi could have eaten an apple, Heidi could have eaten toast. You understand all the other possibilities and alternatives. You're not just paying attention to the one specific rule. And when asked, if you were in the formal operational stage, why do you not know if Heidi is hungry? You would say, because she could eat other things. Whereas if you were just moving into the formal operational stage, you might say something like, well, because Heidi could have had toast. You give a very concrete example. All right, let's do a couple more. If you do all your work, you will pass the class. That's your major premise. Your second premise is, you do not do all the work. Now, the question would be, will you pass the class? Now, if you're in the concrete operational stage, you're only relating the work to passing. So you're going to say, no, if you don't do the work, you're not going to pass. But if you're near the formal operational stage, you see that there's some gray area there, and you understand that the question is really you possibly could still pass, because I don't know all the information to really make a decision on that question. Let's do another one. This is more of a propositional rule. Ice cream is better for you than French fries. French fries are better for you than apples. Then ice cream is better for you than apples. I know that's very wordy, but the idea is you're kind of doing this relational rule. In the concrete operational stage, you're using all your previous knowledge, and you understand that apples are way better for you than ice cream. So you would say that's not true. But the formal operational stage would apply the rule and say, well, if that's what the rule says, then yes, it's true. All right, let's do another one. All fish can fly. Nemo is a fish. Can Nemo fly? And we know that the concrete operational stage is going to be very logical and based in their previous knowledge, and they're going to say, no, fish don't fly. But the formal operational stage is going to say, well, the rule says he can fly, so yeah, he can fly. All right, with that, we're going to take a quick brief break right here, and we'll come back and talk about information processing. See you then.